A chosen soul carries a great responsibility. To be chosen is not a privilege of comfort but a calling of sacrifice. It means that your heart is not your own, for it has been shaped by the hands of the divine to serve others. The path of a chosen soul is never an easy one. It is filled with trials that refine, pain that humbles, and lessons that deepen the roots of wisdom. If you have been given the gift of a generous soul, know that it is both a blessing and a burden. The fire of generosity must be tempered with discernment, and the light of giving must be guarded against the shadows of pride. A generous soul does not give merely for the sake of giving but gives with wisdom, love, and purpose. It understands that true generosity is not just about material wealth but about presence, time, patience, and understanding. A kind word can be a greater gift than gold. A moment of deep listening can heal wounds that riches cannot touch. The chosen soul must learn that generosity is not just about what is given, but about the spirit in which it is given. It must be done without expectation, without the desire for recognition, and without the subtle longing to be repaid. The chosen soul is often tested in solitude. You will find that your most profound acts of generosity are those that no one sees. You will heal wounds in silence, carry burdens that no one acknowledges, and uplift others while your own soul feels weary. Do not despair, for this is the way of those who walk with the divine. The greatest works are often hidden, just as the roots of a mighty tree remain unseen beneath the earth. Your kindness, though unnoticed by the world, is never unseen by the one who matters most. Guard your heart against the fatigue of giving. A generous soul can be drained if it does not also know how to receive. Do not mistake exhaustion for righteousness, nor depletion for holiness. Even the sun must set so that it can rise again. Learn to rest without guilt, to nourish your spirit as you nourish others. A vessel that is empty cannot pour, a heart that is wounded cannot heal. Be kind to yourself as you are kind to others. Beware of those who seek to take advantage of your kindness. A chosen soul attracts both the wounded and the deceitful. Some will come to you with genuine need, and others will come only to take. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Do not allow yourself to be used in the name of goodness. A truly generous soul does not give blindly but discerns when to give and when to withhold. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is to say no, to allow someone to grow through their own struggles rather than rescuing them from lessons they need to learn. There will be times when your generosity is met with ingratitude. Do not let this harden your heart. Give because it is your nature to give, not because you expect appreciation. If gratitude comes, receive it with humility. If it does not, continue to give anyway. The sun does not withhold its light because some choose to ignore it. True generosity is an offering to the divine, not a transaction with people. You will find that the more you give, the more your soul expands. A generous soul is not diminished by giving, it is enriched. Just as the ocean does not run dry when it shares its waters, so too will your soul never lack if your generosity is rooted in love and faith. The divine has a way of replenishing those who give without selfishness. Trust that what you pour out will return to you in ways beyond your understanding. But also remember, generosity is not just for the world, it is for yourself. Be generous with forgiveness, both for others and for yourself. Be generous with patience as you walk your own path of growth. Be generous with love, even towards the parts of yourself that you struggle to accept. A chosen soul must first learn to give to itself what it hopes to give to others. Do not seek the validation of the world. The chosen soul walks a path that many will not understand. You will be misunderstood, criticized, and sometimes even rejected for the very gifts you bring. Do not be disheartened. The light within you is not meant to be dimmed by the opinions of others. Your generosity is a reflection of something far greater than yourself. Stay rooted in humility. A generous soul can easily fall into the trap of pride, believing itself to be superior because of its giving nature. Do not let this be your downfall. True generosity is silent, humble, and free of self-importance. The moment you give to be seen, you have lost the purity of your gift. Let your generosity be like the rain, falling without seeking recognition, nourishing the earth without demanding gratitude. There will be times when you feel unseen and unappreciated. Do not let this cause resentment. The chosen soul does not serve for applause but for the fulfillment of a higher purpose. The fruits of your generosity may not always be visible, but trust that they exist. A single act of kindness can ripple through time in ways you will never know. Surround yourself with those who understand the value of a generous heart. The company you keep will either nurture or deplete your spirit. Seek those who give as you give, who understand the quiet joy of selfless acts, who uplift rather than drain. But even if you walk alone, know that you are never truly alone. The divine walks with those who serve with sincerity. Lastly, do not be afraid to receive. A generous soul often struggles to accept kindness in return, believing it must always be the giver. But just as the ocean receives the rivers, so too must you allow yourself to be replenished. Accept love, accept care, accept rest. You are not meant to carry the world alone. To receive is also an act of humility. A chosen soul with a generous heart is a rare and beautiful thing. The world is in need of such souls, for they are the quiet healers, the unseen pillars, the ones who bring light to the darkest corners. But remember, your light is not meant to be extinguished in service to others. Guard it, nourish it, and let it shine with wisdom and love. Your path will not be easy, but it will be meaningful. Walk it with faith, give with love, and trust that every act of generosity is a seed planted in eternity. What you give will never be lost. The divine sees, and in that knowing, your soul is forever enriched. A generous soul is a vessel of unseen grace. To live with an open heart, constantly pouring into the lives of others, is to participate in the divine rhythm of giving and receiving. Yet, even the most giving soul must learn the art of balance. The weight of generosity, if not tempered with wisdom, can become a silent burden, slowly depleting the spirit. To give endlessly without replenishment is not true service, it is self-neglect in disguise. The chosen soul must understand that giving is not just an action, it is an energy, a sacred exchange between giver and receiver. And just as the tides move in a natural ebb and flow, so too must generosity follow this rhythm. When you give, do so from a place of fullness, not from exhaustion. Let your kindness flow like a river that is constantly replenished by the rain of divine grace, rather than a well that is drawn dry. Know this, not everyone will understand your heart. There will be those who see your kindness as weakness, those who take without gratitude, and those who seek to drain your spirit without ever replenishing it. Do not let this change you. Your soul was made to give, but not at the expense of its own light. Be discerning. Not all hands that reach toward you seek healing, some seek to take advantage of your gentle nature. You must learn when to extend your hands in kindness and when to withdraw them in wisdom. A truly generous soul does not give for recognition, but for the quiet joy of knowing that it has made the world a little softer, a little brighter. The greatest acts of giving are those that no one sees. When you uplift a weary heart, when you offer kindness to someone who cannot repay you, when you pray for those who will never know you did, these are the gifts that echo in eternity. But beware of pride. Even the noblest of givers can fall into the trap of self-righteousness, believing that their generosity makes them superior. The moment you give to be seen, your giving loses its purity. The greatest souls remain unseen, working in silence, never seeking acknowledgement. True giving is like the roots of a tree, hidden beneath the soil, yet providing the very life that allows the branches above to flourish. And yet, even a tree must receive nourishment to continue giving shade. You, too, must allow yourself to receive. To deny yourself rest, love, and care is not humility, it is self-denial that serves no one. Let others pour into you as you pour into them. Let kindness return to you without guilt. Accept love as freely as you give it, for to receive with gratitude is also an act of generosity. The chosen soul walks a lonely road at times. When your heart is large, you will often feel as if you carry the weight of the world alone. You will feel the suffering of others deeply, you will mourn injustices that others overlook, and you will give even when you have little left to offer. This is both your gift and your trial. But know this, every seed of kindness you plant will bear fruit in its own time. Even when you do not see the results of your generosity, trust that it is not in vain. A kind word spoken today may bloom in someone's heart years from now. A small act of love may be the spark that ignites someone's healing. Hold fast to faith. The world is heavy, and it is easy to become weary. But your soul was chosen for a reason. Do not let the hardness of the world harden your heart. Do not let betrayal make you bitter, nor ingratitude make you resentful. Give because it is who you are, not because of how the world responds. At times, you will wonder if your giving matters. When your kindness is met with indifference, when your sacrifices go unnoticed, when you pour yourself out and feel as though nothing has changed, Remember this, the greatest works are often invisible. A tree does not see the full extent of the shade it provides. A river does not see how many lives it sustains. You may never fully know the impact of your generosity, but trust that it exists. Do not fear solitude. The chosen soul often walks alone, not because it is unloved, but because its path is different. There will be moments when you feel unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. Do not let this dishearten you. The work of a generous soul is not for the applause of men, but for the fulfillment of a higher calling. Even in your loneliness, you are not truly alone. The divine walks with those who give in love, who serve in humility, who remain steadfast in their goodness despite the darkness of the world. Protect your peace. A generous soul is often tempted to carry burdens that are not theirs to bear. It is noble to help, but it is not your duty to save everyone. There is wisdom in knowing when to step in and when to step back. Some battles are not yours to fight. Some wounds are not yours to heal. Give what you can, and trust that the rest is in hands far greater than your own. And above all, never lose yourself in your giving. A soul that is constantly emptied without being refilled will eventually fade into exhaustion. You were not chosen to be a martyr to generosity, but to be a beacon of balance, love, and wisdom. Give freely, but also rest deeply. Love others, but do not neglect yourself. Be kind, but do not be blind. Walk your path with grace, and trust that every act of generosity, no matter how small, is seen, valued, and treasured in the eyes of the divine. Your journey is not an easy one, but it is a sacred one. Walk it with faith, with courage, and with the quiet knowing that your soul was made for something beyond the fleeting moments of this world. The love you give will never be wasted. The kindness you show will never be forgotten. And the light you share will continue to shine long after you are gone. A chosen soul with a generous heart is like a wellspring that never runs dry, always giving, always nourishing, always seeking to bring light to the world. But such a soul must also learn the sacred art of balance. True generosity is not about giving endlessly until you are left with nothing. It is about giving wisely, with discernment, and from a place of abundance rather than depletion. The burden of a generous soul. Many do not realize that generosity is both a gift and a weight to carry. A heart that is open to giving is also open to pain. When you love deeply, you feel deeply. When you care for others, you also absorb their suffering. The weight of the world can sit heavily on your shoulders, and there will be moments when you feel drained, unseen, or even unappreciated. Do not let this discourage you. Your acts of generosity are never wasted. Even if the people you help do not express gratitude, even if your kindness seems to go unnoticed, trust that nothing given in love is ever in vain. The divine sees what the world does not. A single act of selfless love ripples through existence in ways beyond human understanding. Yet, you must guard yourself against burnout. A candle that burns too brightly will consume itself. You must learn to replenish your own soul as you nourish others. Rest is not selfishness. Taking time for yourself does not mean you are abandoning your calling. Just as the earth has seasons, so must your life have moments of stillness and renewal. The silent work of a generous soul. A truly chosen soul does not give for applause. Many of the most powerful acts of generosity happen in silence. The quiet prayers you offer for others, the unnoticed sacrifices, the unseen burdens you carry, all of these matter more than you can imagine. Sometimes, your greatest impact will not be something grand or visible. It may be the kindness you show to a stranger who is on the edge of despair. It may be the patience you extend to someone who has never known gentleness. It may be the love you give to someone who believes themselves unworthy of it. You may never see the full results of your generosity, and that is okay. A farmer does not always witness the harvest of the seeds they plant. Trust that your kindness will take root in ways beyond your sight. The test of a generous heart. One of the greatest trials of a generous soul is learning how to navigate disappointment. There will be times when you give your all to someone, only to be met with betrayal, indifference, or rejection. This can be one of the deepest wounds, a pain that lingers in the soul and tempts you to close your heart. But do not let bitterness take root. When people fail to appreciate your generosity, it is a reflection of them, not of you. Their ingratitude should not change your nature. Give not because others deserve it, but because it is who you are. That being said, you must also learn discernment. Generosity does not mean allowing yourself to be used. Some will come to you only to take, draining your spirit without ever giving anything in return. You are not a limitless source of energy, you must choose wisely where you pour your love. Sometimes, the greatest act of generosity is setting boundaries. Saying no is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of wisdom. You must learn when your giving is truly helping and when it is merely enabling. Not everyone is meant to be carried. Some must walk their own path, even if it is painful. The loneliness of a generous soul. To walk as a chosen soul is often to walk alone. Not because you are unloved, but because your heart is different. You see the world with a depth that others may not understand. You feel things more intensely, care more deeply, and love more fully. This can create a sense of isolation. While others move through life concerned only with their own desires, you carry the burdens of those around you. While many seek recognition for their good deeds, you give in silence, expecting nothing in return. Do not let this loneliness make you question your purpose. You are not meant to blend in with the crowd. You are not meant to walk the common path. Your soul was chosen because it is strong enough to bear this weight, wise enough to navigate the trials, and tender enough to keep loving despite the hardships. But even as you walk this unique path, do not close yourself off from others. There are those who will understand you, those who share your calling, those who also carry generous hearts. Seek them. Surround yourself with people who uplift rather than drain, who encourage rather than take advantage. The power of receiving. A generous soul often struggles with receiving. You have spent so much of your life giving that when kindness is offered to you, you may instinctively push it away. You may feel undeserving, or you may believe that accepting help is a sign of weakness. But this is not true. Just as the ocean receives the rivers, so too must you allow yourself to receive love, kindness, and care. The cycle of giving and receiving is sacred. By receiving, you allow others the joy of giving as well. Learn to accept compliments without deflection. Learn to receive gifts without guilt. Learn to let others care for you, just as you have cared for them. Your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice. You are deserving of love, rest, and joy, not because of what you give, but simply because you exist. A legacy of light. The world needs generous souls. It needs people who give not for recognition but out of genuine love. It needs those who heal without seeking reward, those who bring light into the darkest places, those who remind others that kindness still exists. Your journey is not just about the present, it is about the legacy you leave behind. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, contributes to a greater whole. You may never see the full impact of your generosity, but trust that it will live on. The kindness you show today may inspire someone years from now. The love you give may be the reason someone chooses to keep going. Your presence, your words, your selfless acts, they create ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. Final words to a chosen soul. Walk your path with grace. Give freely, but wisely. Love deeply, but protect your heart. Serve others, but do not neglect yourself. Remember that your value is not in what you do, but in who you are. Even if you stopped giving today, you would still be worthy. Even if no one ever thanked you, your generosity would still matter. You are seen. You are loved. You are chosen for a purpose greater than you may yet understand. Keep shining. Keep loving. Keep giving. And most importantly, never forget to receive. A generous soul is like a river, constantly flowing, nourishing all it touches. But even a river must be fed by the rains and the streams that replenish it. If it is not, it dries up, leaving nothing but cracked earth where once there was life. You, too, must allow yourself to be replenished, or else your giving will turn into exhaustion rather than love. The world does not need tired souls who give until they break. It needs strong souls who know how to balance giving and receiving, who understand that generosity is not only an outward act but an inner state of being. To truly give, you must also learn how to receive, not just from others but from life itself. The true meaning of generosity. Many believe generosity is simply about giving, of time, of resources, of love. But true generosity is deeper than that. It is not just about giving outwardly but also about how you hold space for others. It is about presence, about truly seeing and hearing those who cross your path. A chosen soul understands that sometimes the greatest act of generosity is simply to listen. To hold someone's pain with gentleness, to make them feel understood, to remind them that they are not alone. The world is filled with voices that speak but do not listen, hands that give but do not touch hearts. Your generosity is different. It is sacred because it is rooted in love, in sincerity, in the deep knowing that to give is not just to offer something, but to make another feel truly seen. But this kind of generosity is also demanding. It requires emotional energy, presence, and patience. It is not something you can sustain endlessly without taking time to restore yourself. When giving becomes an obligation, one of the dangers of a generous soul is falling into the trap of obligation. When people begin to expect your kindness, when your giving becomes something others take for granted, it can lose its purity. Generosity should come from a place of love, not duty. If you begin to feel resentful, drained, or taken advantage of, it is a sign that something is out of balance. You were never meant to be a source that others endlessly draw from without replenishment. If giving no longer feels like an act of love but a burden, it is time to pause. Ask yourself, am I giving because I want to, or because I feel I must? Am I offering from abundance, or from depletion? True generosity is sustainable only when it is given freely, not when it is forced or expected. You have the right to step back. You have the right to say no. And doing so does not make you any less kind, any less worthy, any less of the chosen soul that you are. Learning to protect your energy. A generous soul is often a magnet for those in need. People sense your light, your willingness to help, your deep compassion, and some will come to you not because they respect your kindness, but because they see you as an endless source to take from. Not everyone who reaches for you deserves your energy. Not everyone who asks for your time is meant to receive it. There will always be those who take without giving, who drain without replenishing, who come to you not as equals but as dependents. Protect your energy. Just as a fire cannot burn without fuel, you cannot continue giving if you allow yourself to be drained. This is not selfishness, it is wisdom. It is the understanding that you are not here to save everyone. Some must learn to save themselves. Learn to discern who truly values your generosity and who simply expects it. The ones who respect your energy will not take it for granted. The ones who truly love you will not guilt you for setting boundaries. The loneliness of those who give freely. A chosen soul often walks a lonely path, not because they are unloved, but because they love in a way that is different from the world around them. While many seek what they can take, you seek what you can give. While others guard their hearts, you offer yours freely. While most look for recognition, you give in silence, expecting nothing in return. This can create a sense of distance. You may find yourself wondering why others do not love as deeply, care as openly, or see the world as you do. You may feel unseen, unappreciated, or even misunderstood. But do not let this loneliness harden you. Do not let the world convince you that your way of loving is too much. The depth of your heart is not a weakness, it is your greatest strength. There are others like you, even if they are rare. Seek them. Find those who love as you love, who give as you give. Surround yourself with souls who understand the beauty of generosity, not just in action but in spirit. And even if you walk alone at times, remember, you are never truly alone. The divine sees you. The love you give is not unnoticed, even if the world fails to recognize it. Receiving is an act of strength. A generous soul often struggles with receiving. You have spent so much of your life giving that when kindness is directed toward you, you do not know how to accept it. You instinctively push it away, telling yourself that others need it more. But to refuse to receive is to break the sacred balance of giving and taking. Just as the ocean receives the rivers, just as the earth drinks the rain, so too must you learn to accept love, kindness, and care. Receiving does not make you weak. Accepting help does not mean you are any less capable. It simply means that you recognize that you, too, are worthy of the same love you give to others. Let yourself be replenished. Let yourself be cared for. The world does not ask a tree to bear fruit without first receiving sunlight, water, and nourishment. You, too, must be nourished before you can continue to give. A legacy of love. A chosen soul does not live for itself alone. The love you give, the kindness you share, the light you bring, it does not end with you. It ripples through the world, touching lives in ways you may never fully see. You may never know how many people you have saved simply by being kind. You may never hear the stories of those whose lives you have changed with a single word, a single gesture, a single act of generosity. But trust that it happens. Your presence here matters. Your giving matters. The world needs more souls like yours, souls who love without conditions, who give without expectation, who remind others that kindness still exists. So walk forward with grace. Give when you can, receive when you need to. And trust that every act of love, no matter how small, is shaping the world in ways beyond what you can see. Final words to a chosen soul. You are not defined by how much you give, but by the love that fills your heart. You are enough, even when you are resting. You are worthy, even when you are not offering anything to others. You are loved, even when you feel unseen. Continue walking your path with grace. But do not forget to rest, to receive, and to let yourself be held in the same love that you give so freely. A generous soul is like a quiet light in the darkness, steady, unwavering, offering warmth to all who draw near. But even the brightest light must be fueled. Even the purest love must be balanced with wisdom. Even the most giving heart must learn when to give and when to rest. Many who walk this path of generosity do so without question, believing that their purpose is to give without limits, to serve without pause. But true generosity is not just about what you give, it is about how you give, when you give, and from where you give. If your giving comes from a place of exhaustion, it is no longer generosity, it is self-sacrifice. If your kindness is given out of obligation rather than love, it is no longer kindness, it is a burden. And if your service depletes you to the point where you have nothing left for yourself, it is no longer noble, it is self-abandonment. The sacred balance between giving and receiving. The universe exists in balance, day and night, ebb and flow, giving and receiving. A river flows only because it is fed by the rain, a fire burns only because it is fueled. You, too, must be replenished. A generous soul often finds it difficult to receive. You are so accustomed to being the giver, the caretaker, the one who holds space for others, that when love is offered to you, you hesitate. You tell yourself that others need it more, that you can manage on your own, that accepting help is selfish. But receiving is not selfish. It is part of the sacred cycle of generosity. When you allow yourself to receive, you honor the love that others wish to give. When you accept kindness, you acknowledge that you, too, are worthy of care. When you let yourself be nourished, you ensure that your giving comes from a place of abundance rather than depletion. The unseen burden of a giving heart. People often admire those who give freely, but they do not always see the weight that a generous soul carries. They see the kindness, but not the exhaustion. They see the strength, but not the quiet moments of doubt. They see the light, but not the times when you feel unseen, unappreciated, or forgotten. There will be moments when you wonder if your efforts matter. When you give your time, your energy, your love, and receive nothing in return. When you help others only to be left behind when they no longer need you. When your kindness is mistaken for weakness, and your generosity is taken for granted. These moments can be painful. They can make you question whether it is worth it to keep giving. They can tempt you to close your heart, to stop caring, to become like those who take without ever giving back. But do not let the actions of others change the purity of your soul. The value of your kindness is not determined by how others receive it, it is determined by the love with which it is given. Even if no one thanks you, even if no one acknowledges your efforts, trust that every act of love, every moment of generosity, leaves an imprint on the world. The power of silent giving. A chosen soul does not give for recognition. You do not seek applause, nor do you need validation. Your generosity is not a performance, it is an offering. Some of the most powerful acts of kindness are the ones that go unseen, the prayers whispered for a stranger, the quiet sacrifices made for those you love, the moments when you choose patience over anger, love over resentment, compassion over indifference. The world may never know the depth of what you give, but the divine sees. The universe recognizes every act of love, no matter how small. And even if no one else acknowledges your kindness, trust that it is never wasted. Navigating the pain of betrayal and ingratitude. One of the hardest lessons for a generous soul is learning how to navigate the pain of betrayal. To give with an open heart, only to have that trust broken. To help someone in their time of need, only to be forgotten when they no longer require your help. To love deeply, only to be met with indifference. It is natural to feel hurt. It is human to feel disappointment. But do not let these experiences make you bitter. The pain of betrayal is a reflection of them, not of you. Their ingratitude does not diminish the sincerity of what you gave. However, wisdom is necessary. Being a generous soul does not mean allowing yourself to be used. Learn from the past, but do not let it close your heart. Set boundaries where needed. Give wisely, not blindly. Love deeply, but not at the cost of your own well-being. The loneliness of those who love deeply. A generous heart often walks alone, not because it is unloved, but because it loves differently. In a world where many seek to take, you seek to give. In a world where love is often transactional, yours is unconditional. This can create a sense of solitude. You may find that you do not fit into the same spaces as others, that your depth is intimidating to those who do not know how to swim in deep waters. You may wonder why others do not love as freely, care as deeply, or see as clearly as you do. But take heart, you are not alone. There are others like you, souls who love without conditions, who give without expectations, who walk the same quiet path of kindness. Seek them, surround yourself with those who understand the language of your heart. And even in moments of solitude, remember, you are never truly alone. The divine walks with you. Your love, your kindness, your presence in this world is needed, even when it feels unnoticed. A legacy of love. A chosen soul does not live for itself alone. Your presence, your generosity, your love, it all leaves a mark. You may never fully see the impact of your kindness. The lives you touch may never come back to tell you how much you mattered. The seeds of love you plant may take years to bloom, but trust that they will. A kind word spoken today may be remembered decades from now. A single act of love may be the reason someone chooses to keep going. The generosity you show may inspire others to do the same, creating ripples of kindness that extend far beyond what you can see. This is your legacy. Not wealth, not power, not status, but love. The quiet, unwavering love that transforms the world in ways unseen. Final words to a chosen soul. So, dear generous heart, walk forward with grace. Give when you can, but not at the cost of yourself. Love deeply, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Rest when you need to. Let yourself receive. Allow yourself to be nourished. And trust that every act of kindness, every moment of generosity, is shaping the world in ways beyond what you can imagine. You are not defined by how much you give, but by the love that fills your heart. You are enough, even when you are resting. You are worthy, even when you are not offering anything to others. You are loved, even when you feel unseen. Continue walking your path with grace. But do not forget to rest, to receive, and to let yourself be held in the same love that you give so freely.